Today, we're going to dive into something we all use every single day, but let's be honest, almost never think about: the water that comes out of our taps. We're looking at this really fascinating project that set out to make a critical and almost completely invisible public service, well, visible to all of us. And get this. This is a quote from the person behind the whole project. It just perfectly captures the wild story we're exploring. Turns out, Wisconsin has this incredible treasure trove of data on all its water systems, which made it the perfect lab to build something totally new: a report card for water. And calling them miracles is no exaggeration. Seriously, a century ago, these systems were huge deals, monuments to progress. By giving people clean, reliable water, they wiped out diseases that had been plaguing humanity for thousands of years. They completely transformed our cities and fueled our economy. They were, and I mean this literally, lifesavers. But here's the crazy paradox. They've done their job so incredibly well for so long that we've all just forgotten about them. Most of us have the amazing luxury of just taking clean tap water completely for granted. Their success has made them invisible. I mean, the contrast between then and now is just night and day. We went from celebrating new water plants with actual parades — they would literally bury old hand pumps in mock funerals — to today, where our water infrastructure is completely out of sight and out of mind. It's buried both under our streets and deep in our consciousness. The only time we even think about it is when the bill comes, or when something goes horribly, horribly wrong. And look, this invisibility, it creates huge problems. For you and me, a fantastic, top-of-the-line utility looks exactly the same as one that's about to fail, right up until the moment disaster strikes. For politicians, there's really no upside to investing in excellence, but there's a huge downside in public anger over rate hikes. So what does that lead to? A dangerous, chronic cycle of underinvestment. And past attempts to fix this with super technical reports, they actually made people less confident in their water. So how do you solve a problem that's buried so deep you can't even see it? Well, you find a way to make it simple, clear, and visible. And that's where this really elegant solution comes into play. The answer was kind of brilliant in its simplicity. Give every single water utility in Wisconsin a report card, just like the ones we all got in school. This is the big idea behind the Wisconsin Waterworks Excellence Project. And this approach works so well because it's just intuitive. Think about it. We might not understand what parts per billion means, but every single one of us gets what an A or an F means. It lets us see who's truly excellent, not just who is barely passing. It shows progress. A C this year that was an F last year, that's a win. And, maybe most importantly, it clearly flags the subjects where utility really needs to hit the books. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how on earth do you actually grade a water utility? Let's take a quick look at the pretty rigorous science that went on behind these scores. Now, this wasn't something they just threw together overnight. Oh no, this took years. It started way back in 2021, developing the grading system with experts in engineering, finance, you name it. Then they calculated the first grades, shared them privately with the utility leaders to get their feedback, fine-tuned the whole thing, and then finally launched it to the public. This was a really careful, collaborative process. So they broke everything down into 5 key subjects. First up, and most important, is health. Is the water safe to drink? Then you've got infrastructure and operations. Basically, how are the pipes holding up? Next is finance. Is the utility on solid financial ground? Then communications. How easy is it to find information? And finally, aesthetics. How does the water taste and smell? All right, we've seen the method. Now for the main event. What did these report cards actually reveal about the state of water in Wisconsin? And right off the bat, the news is fantastic. On health, the most important subject of all, Wisconsin's utilities are absolutely crushing it. A whopping 92% earned an A. And get this, the rubric is tough. An A means your highest contaminant level was less than half the legal limit. This is just a powerful testament to the people who run these systems day in and day out. Okay, so after that really high note, the picture gets a little more complicated. When we look at finance, yeah, most utilities are doing fine, but a pretty big chunk, 22%, so more than 1 in 5, are in the D or F range. That signals some real potential trouble with long-term financial stability for a lot of communities. And you know what? It's a very similar story when we look at infrastructure and operations. Again, that same 22% are struggling with Ds and Fs. When you dig into the data, you see the biggest statewide issues are aging pipes, which lead to a ton of water main breaks and a lot of water just getting lost. And this is where the data really comes to life. Let's take Green Bay as an example. They get a perfect A for healthy water and another A for their communications, but they get an F for infrastructure. Now, that doesn't mean they're failing. It means they are heroically delivering safe water to their customers despite having very old, very leaky pipes. So the report card doesn't condemn them, it highlights their specific challenge and gives them ammunition to make the case for investment. And that brings us to the single biggest area for improvement across the whole state: communications. Almost half, 48%, of all utilities in Wisconsin failed this subject. The bad news is that it was often next to impossible to find even basic information online. But here's the silver lining. This is by far the easiest subject to fix. Upgrading a website is a whole lot faster and cheaper than replacing miles and miles of underground pipes. So the real question isn't just about the grades themselves, but about the conversations they start. Is this whole project actually succeeding in its mission to make the invisible visible? And the answer seems to be a resounding yes. Just listen to the pride in this quote from the Public Works Director in Wausau. After his utility earned an A for water quality, he's able to go to his community and celebrate that success. The report card gives him the proof and the platform to do it. But now look what happens when the grade is an F. Instead of getting defensive about a failing grade in communications, that same director uses it to make a crystal clear case to his city leaders. He's basically saying, see, this is why we need more resources. We need a better website to serve our public. It turns a bad grade into a powerful tool for improvement. This quote from the utility leader in Marinette is just brilliant. He's explaining that their C in finance isn't a failure. It's actually a strategic choice. They've consciously decided to keep rates low for residents, which means their financial reserves aren't as high as they could be. The report card sparked a really honest, transparent conversation about the real-world trade-offs that go into running a utility. So, as they looked at all this data, a really clear pattern started to pop out. Size matters. The biggest utilities, the ones serving over 25,000 people, are consistently high-performing. But for the smallest communities, those serving fewer than 5,000 people, it's a real mixed bag. That group has some of the absolute best performers in the state, and also all of the worst. And this really brings us to the big picture takeaway here. This model of simple, intuitive report cards, it's not just about water, and it's not just about Wisconsin. Imagine applying this to all the other invisible systems we rely on: the power grid, our sanitation systems, public transit. It's a powerful new way to drive accountability and, hopefully, smarter investment. So we want to leave you with this question to chew on. If you could give a report card to the invisible infrastructure that makes your life possible, your water, your power, your roads, what grades would they get? And what kind of conversations would that report card start in your community?